would anyone ever want to put truck tire on a Tesla Model S? And what happens if you do? Stick around, let's find out. Hello everyone, welcome to California Dream Drives. Today we have a bit of an odd topic. It is not every day that you see truck tires ending up in a car like this. You would either have to be just a little bit crazy, or it would have to be a complete accident for this to happen. In this case, maybe it's a little bit of both. Let's find out. So if you watched last week's video about cheap tires, you will know that I was in a bit of a pickle. I needed to find tires for the Tesla fast. And with the monstrous size of the tires that are needed for these wheels, the 22s that are on this car, there isn't a huge selection available for tires. You're fairly limited to the tires that you can get. I had initially settled on some Lexani tires, but apparently they were currently sold out across the country. So I switched and I started looking at Lionhart tires instead. A similar sort of category, maybe similar quality, and they were available. So if you go on Lionhart's site and you start looking at different tires on there, you will notice that they all have very similar names. They're typically named LH and then a number that's spelled out. So LH5, LH8, LH11, LH10, something like that. So I was in a rush because I had tried to order tires many different times. And right after I ordered them, I realized that I had ordered Lionhart LH-EIGHT tires, which are truck tires, truck performance tires, but still truck tires. So I immediately called the vendor and canceled the order. So I went on a different site and ordered the LH5s there. A couple of days later, 2 tires from Lionhart are sitting on my front porch. Fantastic. I go over, I have the tires mounted. When I left the tire installation place with the new tires on the car, I immediately noticed some differences with these tires. I didn't really pay that much attention to it, just figuring, hey, I ordered cheap tires. They're going to be different. I'm going to do a video about that anyway, so it is what it is. But when I returned from having the tires installed, on my front porch again sat 2 new tires. And these 2 new tires, of course, were the Lionhart LH5s, which are the ones that I needed and wanted, the correct tires that had shown up. So apparently the initial vendor, while they told me they canceled the order, somehow the tires still shipped. So that is how I ended up with truck tires on the Tesla S. And so here they are, the Lionhart LH-EIGHT. I've raised the car up a little bit so you can hopefully better see the tire here, and they aren't terrible looking. The tread pattern on here is actually reasonably sporty. It looks even more sporty than what's on the actual LH5 performance tires, so not bad looking. I wished I had some super sexy close-ups to show you of these tires, but all I have is a feeble attempt of making some cool shots in my driveway before this all started, and they were pretty much an epic fail, but it's all I have, so that's what you're looking at right now. So the very first thing you notice about these tires when you start driving on them is the sound. And it's not like a hum, it's more like a whoosh. It almost sounds like there's more wind noise than normal, but there's just this ongoing sound. When I first drove on them, I'm like, what is wrong with the car? Something happened. It's just more of a noise to them, and it's very pronounced as you drive, especially when you drive at slower speeds. You hear this whoosh, this wind noise the whole time. You may be able to hear it. I'm not sure if the microphone is picking it up, but it's very pronounced, and it's definitely more of a truck sounding sound than it is a performance car sounding sound. The other thing you notice almost immediately as well is how rough the ride is. It's bumpy. You feel every little bump and groove in the road. Definitely not a smooth tire. Now, this car does have extreme low profile tires on there to begin with. You know, these are 22-inch rims, 295, 35 profile tires. So not a whole lot of sidewall there to give and to absorb bumps. But with the Toyos that were on here before, even though they were older and worn, certainly a much more comfortable ride than what you're getting with these tires. And so now that we're on the freeway, you can really tell and feel the truck tire nature of these tires. It's certainly a much more bumpy ride on the freeway than it was on my older tires. It's also, even though I only have these tires on the rears so far, it feels like there's more tram lining going on. The cars, it's more likely to follow grooves in the road and not quite as stable as it used to be. So definitely not the same experience as the Toyos I had on here before. Alright, we now know what these tires feel like for riding on. But since this is a performance car, what we really want to know is how do they perform? And for that, we're going to have some. So to get a good feel for performance of the tire, nothing beats a good old-fashioned hard launch. So that's what we're going to do. Now, of course, these days with traction control in the cars, it isn't just about the tire, it's just as much as about the traction control in the car. But we're going to try it anyway because it's loads of fun, and let's see what we get.
3, 2, 1, 0, 0, and liftoff. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
It never ceases to be fun with the Tesla. The torque is just so cool, but as you may have noticed and heard, even with the traction control on, we had significant wheel spin there. That was not a great launch. That's not normally how it goes in this car. Normally, maybe a little slippage here and there, but nothing like that. So, not a great success in terms of the acceleration and hard hookup on these tires. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, this would be an excellent opportunity for you to gently nudge the like button and maybe even subscribe. It would really help out the channel and I would greatly appreciate it. Now clearly that was not a good launch. Around 7 seconds is a far cry from what this car normally does. It's somewhere in the mid-fours or somewhere around there usually. Part of that was me lifting off once we started getting the spin on there, so obviously I wasn't feeding it as hard as I could be, but to be fair, that was also caused by the tire spinning that much, so just not a great launch. It's difficult to get it to hook up. Definitely more of a truck tire than a performance tire. Now doing acceleration testing and finding out just how much grip you can get from a tire when you're really launching it, that's a lot of fun. But there is another side to the performance equation that's much more important. And I am of course talking about, can the tire stop your car? And so in order to find out how this tire performs in this critical part of the performance, we're going to run a little test. We're going to try to get the car up to 60 miles per hour, hit the brakes hard, and measure the stopping distance. I've done a little bit of research and looked up for the 2013 Tesla P85s, and most commonly they stopped at around 118 feet from 60 to 0. So let's see what we can do on this tire. Again, small caveat, we only have this tire on the rear wheels, and of course the front wheels are what take the brunt of the force during the braking of the car. So not necessarily a great test, but still a test that we can do and see what kind of results we get. Right, we need a nice piece of straight, quiet road in front of us, and I think we found it here, so we're going to give it a try. Take the car up to 60 and find a marker and hit the brakes exactly at that spot. Here we go. Alright, so that was minimal slippage. We know exactly where we are right now. That was actually not a bad break at all. So next we're going to try to go out and see if we can measure that distance and see how far that was. So from here to there is the exact braking distance. And let's see what our fantastic handy dandy laser measuring tool says the distance is. So the laser tool registered 158 feet as the braking distance. That is atrocious. I mean, I did not expect that. I expected it to be not great, but 158 feet, did not expect that. In all fairness, part of that is also because the tires on the front maybe aren't that great anymore, and they do take the brunt of the work when the braking is going on. But still, 158 feet. I just can't believe it. And just to make sure that the tool was telling the truth, we went back and actually did the measurements 3 more times, as you see here. And yes, it is 158 feet. So in the end, we've had a lot of fun, but the conclusion was probably the same as everyone expected, that putting truck tires on a performance car just isn't a good idea. I did have high hopes for these tires because they were listed as performance truck tires, but as we learned, they didn't sound good, they didn't feel good, they didn't hook up well, and they certainly didn't stop well. So I think the conclusion is just don't do it. And before we wrap things up completely here, there are only 2 more things left to do. Number 1, gently nudge the like button, and number 2, turn off traction control. So many cars everywhere. There's just not room for you to do performance tests around here. That's Orange County for you. Cars, cars, cars everywhere. Man, this ride is rough. Just keep getting bounced around. Definitely have tires to buy for their comfort.